And so that, you say we have 11,000
545
545
mm-hmm.
left.
in that budget, yes.
Okay, and those funds are represented in this ledger at another
No,
part?
the 11,545 is still in capital assets, which
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't add that in there, I should have.
Okay,
Unallocated funds.
that's in unallocated, Tim?
No, that's
Or
what it
that's-
is.
It would
That's
be
not a category.
unallocated
We
funds at
haven't
this
assigned it to
point.
anything.
We haven't assigned it to anything,
Okay.
so it is still in the bank
Okay.
with, or in our budget as capital assets,
Okay.
sale of capital
So we
assets.
can move on from sale of capital
Yeah.
assets.
And we can decide later at budget, at council meetings and things like that, if we need to use any of that money.
We should show that money in this
Yes, I'll-
ledger.
Yeah, I will. I will go and,
And where do you plan on putting it?
I'm gonna keep it in capital assets because that's where it belongs.
Okay. So you'll make a different line?
No, I'll just add, I'll go back into the computer and I will put in that ending balance for this year, instead of zero, $11,545.
Okay,
But it will stay in that line item because that is where it was.
that's where it was
And if we
generated.
need
Yes.
somewhere, we by resolution and we can move it.
We can move some of it, yeah, I'd like to put some of that, you know, keep some of that money back, along with some other monies
Well,
that we have.
that in essence then becomes a little nest egg.
Yes,
Is that where we wanna see that on our budget?
no, but we can move it out of the budget at a later date and
Why,
put
why
it.
not move it now?
We don't know where
Don't know
to
where to
put
put
it.
it.
Okay.
No, you can't, it's not that we don't know where to put it, we can put it anywhere we want, but we have to do it by resolution, we cannot just move money around. This is a sale of capital assets, it's land, a property that the city owned, we cannot move it out of that bank account or out of this budget item and a line until we do it by resolution to move the remainder of those funds to another line in the budget.
That makes sense to you guys?
Yeah,
So where
Okay.
they-
yep.
I'm not sure, I'm still,
That's
There's a
that's
big question.
mandated by state law, you cannot move
and
those.
what does a resolution take?
A resolution just takes me writing up a resolution, putting it on the agenda for the council to review, then they approve the resolution, and then we move it.
Could that be used like for hydrants and all that, when you're
Yes.
gonna get in that
Yeah, if
trouble?
we needed extra money
After-
for hydrants or something.
After it's
We
moved?
have to put it
Right.
into our general
Right.
fund, we'd have
After
to
it's
move it
moved.
from the capital
Yes.
assets into our
After
general
vote.
fund.
Okay.
And the way the resolution that I've written up now, which you will get in your September meeting, or before the Friday before our September meeting, actually, so you can review it. And it just says that the resolution states that we are passing the budget, or approving the budget for 2018-19 with the proviso. There's a little paragraph in there that means that we can move money around in the budgets and not have to do an amendment every time we do that. Because according to state law, if you move a budget, monies from one line to another in a certain budget, or what you have to do an amendment, you have to send it to the state, they have to approve it, I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah,
And so instead of doing that, the resolution will include this
okay,
paragraph saying that we can do that when we submit our budget to the state. And we have to do
with
that.
council approval.
Yes,
Okay.
with council approval. And then we have to approve this budget, this next meeting, because it has to be into the state by the following Thursday.
Good, okay. So the only changes to this line here, the total general fund revenue would be that $11,545, is that correct? This number here?
Yes.
Yeah, this is year-to-date, the first column. Second column is previous budget, and this
Right.
last one is our new budget. So the 11,545, yes, would go to the total revenue, general fund revenue.
Okay.
And I will go back and add all this again and correct it on the clean copy so that we have that.
So that's gonna read
And I will have that clean copy done.
127,914.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And I will have the clean copy to you guys when, so that you can, Brenda can distribute it to you on the Friday before the meeting to look at. Actually, it's 545.50.
Okay,
I mean, let's not let 50 cents go
I
to
got
waste.
it.
We
I
might be
made the
able to
change.
use that somewhere.
I made the change.
Okay, so miscellaneous revenue, we want to look at that, identify the funds and
Move.
either move it or actually put a line in there for whatever the revenue is. Miscellaneous revenue is just defined by what's underneath it. The rents and royalties, contributions, things like
Yeah,
that.
I understand, but the connotations of miscellaneous revenue has some very negative.
Well, I'm with you on that, because other services drive me nuts too. I like to have them defined. Tell me what other services are, instead of it's just a line item in the budget
Well-
you use for, when you don't have another line to describe it.
The advantage that you have if you move it is that you can define it, you can tell whether or not it's a fixed or a floating amount.
And I don't
And then
think any
it's
of them,
gonna help
except
us
for the
next year.
except for the rent up on that 40 acres is a fixed thing. And I'm not sure, I have to look at the contracts and see just exactly, because I wasn't on the council when they did this, so.
Okay. Cool.
The rest of it, yeah, we can definitely move some of those around. The mosquito donation, actually, we can put in public safety. Public works revenue, police reserve has been there for a while. We can move that into another allocation.
What exactly is that?
We put away money for police reserves. When we had events in town, they hired a reserve officer to do that. The sheriff's office does that for us now, so we don't need to pay anybody for police reserve.
And is that just a little savings account, or do we get that as a yearly?
No, it's just a little savings account.
Okay.
It's been there for a while.
Okay.
So we can put that in another, we can move that to
And
another
remove.
area of public safety.
Yeah, especially if you don't see that that's gonna be become a
Yeah.
reoccurring.
Right.
Personally, we ought to put that into where we pay the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
We could move it into the sheriff's department budget.
Yeah, that way it's all together.
Mhm. Makes sense.
So you wanna move that into,
I would, yeah.
okay. The allocation for, state allocation for gas tax is exactly what this is. It's the money that we get goes into our general fund, which we use mostly for infrastructure improvement.
Love it.
Water revenue is exactly what it is. We have the charges that we charge for services, new services, bulk water sales, and
Here's one that I'm a little concerned that we're gonna meet projection. And the only reason I say that is that we're gonna have to come to terms with the fact that we haven't sent out bills for how many months?
we have sent out bills.
We have?
Yes, we have.
When
They've
did
been
we do?
estimated,
Okay, but,
and they have
okay,
been read this
alright.
month, so they
So-
will go back, and we will go back to our regular
Well, we didn't get one last month.
No.
meter reading. Yeah,
Another
that was,
month without one.
that was probably my fault, because I told Brenda that we were gonna try and get those meters read, and the month before that, she just, we
People
had
are
the,
going
we had the
to get-
meters read, and she said, forget it, I already estimated them.
Okay,
We're going to have is people with sticker shock when they get to actual usage.
No,
I don't
that's,
think
that's
that's-
not how it works, Bill.
I'm really concerned about
How
that.
does it work
And the
then?
reason I say that
If you
is,
get the actual, and
Okay.
it's over,
Um,
you're sending a bill for it, right?
This is the way it works. Believe me, I've done this for 23 years, so I know what I'm talking about. You can estimate a water and sewer, garbage, whatever, for several months. What they do is they estimate from the year, the same month before. So if you estimate for July, when you mail your bills out in August and it covers your month of July, the estimation goes back a year to see what you used a year ago. And that is what you were estimated on. So then say we did this for a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months. Okay, so when they actually read the meters, chances are, and believe me, I've looked at the meter readings and we have a lot of readings that by estimating we're over, so we have a negative usage in those columns. So your water bill is not going to get higher at all. In some cases it might, like mine, because I watered a whole lot this year, or this month. So mine, which is usually I use maybe 1,200, 1,400 gallons. This beginning of end of July, beginning of August, I used closer to 2,005, about 2,500 gallons. I know that because I've been reading my meter, and
My concern is that not everybody's worked in this field for 25 years.
I'm just
And
gonna
you
say
have-
that, yes,
You have
your
a whole
meter,
bunch of senior citizens in this town that
I know
have
what you-
fixed
I know what
income,
you're talking
and I'm
about.
concerned
I know.
that they're gonna get a bill that they
Yeah.
can't pay.
I don't think that's gonna happen, and I'll
Well,
show
I
you
don't-
what I mean.
Okay,
Well,
well,
here,
what you just explained didn't
Didn't cover it,
didn't
no.
give
People,
me,
some people aren't gonna have
that's
an
for
overcharge,
concern.
but there's going to be a lot of people that owe more.
They
I
will,
don't
they
care
will
if you
owe
did it
more
for
than
25
they
years.
will, they might owe more than what they paid last month, which was the
Yes.
basics, like $130. My bill this month will probably be $140, and I'm one of those people that's on a fixed income.
Well,
Well,
you're
for the-
taking it a lot easier than I think half of our population is gonna take that.
Well, I
if
think
some of
that,
them get a higher water bill, then we need to probably have Brenda prepared to,
Help
either
them out.
we're gonna get, either help them out, either forgive them a certain amount.
Forgive them? Yeah.
and we've
or-
talked about that, and Brenda is so adamant about that. No,
Well,
we are
Brenda
not
doesn't
gonna
make
do
the
that.
decisions. We do.
Really?
Yeah, you know that.
Okay.
And-
You
and
haven't worked with Brenda much, have you?
I'm telling you, Shirley, the
Yeah.
fact is that these three gentlemen right here make the rules.
I know.
And
they
she
do.
knows
Well,
that,
and
too.
the fourth one. But
Yes.
yes, and we can do that. We
And I
can
think that's-
forgive somebody that, you know, that has a bill that's outrageous. But
Right.
I honestly do
We have
not
to be
think,
prepared for that, and my concern was the projection isn't gonna meet if we have that in the back of our minds.
I think
Or
it
is it
will
gonna be
because
a
we have new
shortfall?
services. No,
Okay.
we have new services.
We do have new services.
We've
We
got
need to look at these new
1, 2,
service
3
charges.
new services going in. We've got 3 more new services that are projected in the next few months. So I believe that with our projection, I think that we're pretty close to where, and we may go over. Now, this projection here, the metered services, was
Mhm.
the last one that I got on the 18th of June. That was for the month before. So we've already added.
Okay, so you don't see a $20,000 shortfall?
No, I
Okay.
don't. I really don't.
Okay. All right, then let's leave
But I
it where
think
it's
that
at.
needs to be upfront here
And-
with everybody that
Right.
to forgive these,
I agree.
because it
And
is
we
kind of
will-
our fault.
Right, and we
Yeah.
will
you
be
know?
hiring a new person soon, so we're gonna have to look at that kind of things too. I've already put ads in the paper, and Brenda's gonna post it.
So let's keep in the back of our mind a hardship
Exactly.
scenario,
Case by case.
And those
Yes.
should already be there.
okay?
Okay.
Good.
And it's something we can look at case by case basis.
Right.
Okay.
Jerry? Oh, I'm sorry.
When
Okay.
they get the water down here for the farmers and stuff, you know, how much are they charged to?
They're charged $2 per 100 gallons, I think it is. And I'm sorry, I didn't bring the table of fees with me. I had it right there with my rest of my notes here,
It's
and I
in,
forgot.
it's in one of these, the total revenues generated from that, Jerry, is that what you're asking?
No,
Yeah.
he's
Wow.
asking the charges.
How much do they get charged?
Yeah, I think it's $2 per 100
1,000
gallons or 1,000 gallons, $2 per 1,000 gallon.
'Cause we have to pay $3.
Yeah, that's
It's
what,
$2.40 per 1,000 after your basic fee.
I think that should go up a little bit.
those are some of the things we're gonna have to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, our table of fees, we really need to look at.
Yeah, we do, because there's a lot of things that we need to change.
Right.
It's just for these hookups.
Yeah,
We're
paying
losing,
out
Do you
lot
see
of
a
money and
shortfall
what
there?
we're getting
Oh,
back
yes.
is not covered.
yes, definitely. We're bleeding money, out of the, you know where.
And like the trailer
Because
court, are
Even,
they,
even if we had two full-time
individually
people, you're
charged
looking at operating hours,
for
you're
water
looking
and
at
that, or-
equipment use,
I
you're looking
believe
at
so.
gas and oil, you're looking at possibility of repairs if something breaks
Right.
down.
Yeah.
You have to look at man hours,
Mhm.
cost of labor, liability, yeah, all that stuff adds up. And if you look at what it costs compared to what we bring in for, fees,
not even close, huh?
we're not even close.
No.
I mean, the gap
Yeah,
is
we need
really
to
wide.
relook that.
So we have to really review that and look at those. And I will type up, and get comparisons. I've already talked to 1, 2, 3, 4 town clerks. They're gonna send me, what they charge and
Yeah.
what their fees are.
Good.
I went online and double checked a bunch of it, yesterday and the day before. Our fees are,
Out of date.
antiquated. Let's put it that way.
All right, so, we're gonna stick with the 160 on the meter
Yeah.
charges, okay?
Yeah. Those are, that's.
New services, we can
New
maybe look
services,
at bumping
we
that
can
up a
look
little bit.
at, we can look at that,
But
yeah.
we'll leave that where it is.
Well, okay, let me tell you something about this, about the budget. We plug in projected numbers for the budget. After we approve the budget, we don't change the numbers in the budget. We don't add to them, we don't change anything until the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Then we go back and look at what
Actual revenue.
actual revenue came in, then we can add, subtract, or whatever. Now, new services, we usually don't get more than maybe one every 2 years, maybe.
This has been an anomaly.
This has been, yes. We've had Loftuses who are putting in 2 houses on their lot down there. Mr. Coolmar moved in a mobile home, although his house is in the county. He is on city water and sewer, so that's another new service. It's not like the population is growing or receding, it's not a growth thing. Because every time someone sells a house, they leave and somebody else buys it and they move in. So we're not, it's kind of like my grandpa used to say, population of the town never changes because every time someone gets pregnant, someone leaves town. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
Or dies.
Right, and so, if the kids have the property, they sell it, somebody moves in, but it's just exchange of ownership, it's not new property or new people moving in, or new services. So, the new services, pretty much are based on history.
Yeah.
Of what we've
That's fine.
done.
And I
This
think-
year, Dave is right, it's been a little bit more than normal, so, actually, it's only been 3 so far. But again, we have a lady that bought Elmer Halverson's property up here on Cactus. He's got an acre with his house. She wants to put 3 houses on there, on that acre. Which, we're looking at new services, yes. But we're also looking at some other problems with that too, so, and we'll discuss that at another planning meeting. The sales of meters and supplies, I may have to raise that just a little bit because I wasn't anticipating extra meters being sold. I went by what we have on our receipt books right now, so I can put a plus sign on that and add another 1,500 if we want to on that.
I don't think it's a bad idea to hit that low.
No, I think you're right, Dale.
You wanna keep it at 2,000?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just keep it
If we
there
go
and
over
then-
it, we'll have that extra money in the bank and we can use that to, DEQ fees are standard, it's $50 a month.
Fixed,
Fixed.
500?
okay?
Oh, 50.
Yeah, it's $50 a month. thereabouts.
Penalties and interest, I don't know what that is.
That is just interest that,
That we pay
that
for
we,
not
no, that we,
meeting
this
deadlines
is,
or what?
this is revenue, so this is,
Oh, income.
right. And
Where
we do
would we
get
get that?
interest from, well, we get interest from our CDs at Valley Bank in, or not Valley, but in Billings,
Well, we have an interest
credit
line.
union,
We have an interest line up here too.
right.
So maybe we ought to move either that one down or this one up. That's one of those lines we were trying to get rid of in miscellaneous.
This is water revenue though. Interest in the bonds for the water revenue
Oh.
is in Bridge,
Oh, okay.
Montana,
All right,
at the bank.
we're good.
We have a bond there, and that's what that's for.
Okay,
Sewer revenue, pretty much the same thing. The miscellaneous revenue is a bond that is in, and I cannot think of that company's name, but it's an investment firm. That's what the $5,000 is.
okay.
Service charges are pretty close to what they've been historically in the last several years. Well, since we raised the rates in 2011.
Okay.
The disposal revenue went up what was it, 1.5%? And it will, according to our contract that we signed,
2.5%.
2.5%. And it will continue to go up every year until that contract is renewed or discussed again. And it was like a, what, 7-year contract?
Now, it was a 10-year contract with 8 years to go,
Yeah.
Okay.
which I don't remember ever voting for.
I don't either, but I can go back through the
That's
minutes
not,
and look at
the
it.
revenue doesn't go up, the costs go up.
The cost of the service goes up, but the
Yeah,
revenue,
Revenue
no, the
doesn't,
revenue doesn't change
Oh,
because we
yeah,
don't
yeah.
charge any more for garbage than we did.
yeah, so.
And maybe we should. 'Cause
I
think we're-
really-
That's
I
something
really
that
don't
should be
wanna-
looked at.
we're-
I really
we're
don't
losing-
wanna go there, guys, simply because
We're-
we already
cost
have
of
high
us to
rates
live
for
here now.
everything as it is.
Yeah.
And I know the cost of
We're,
living is
we're,
going
we're
up and
paying, what,
wages
4%
aren't.
increase a year for garbage disposal? Two?
2.5.
Increase?
2.5 years.
Well, you know, I guess in one way, you can say we're doing them a favor, the other way, I'm thinking that those funds are coming out of somewhere, and it's coming out of our
It's coming out of our
city budget,
Yes,
and that leaves us less to pay for streets
Mhm.
and everything else.
right?
So, I mean, if you let the public know what we're considering,
Mm-hmm.
they might have a different idea, they might be willing to pay more.
And that's another thing that we need to do is when we start doing anything, I think we need to put a little blurb out there, post it, whatever. Yeah.
Does the public even know that our charge for garbage goes up 2.5% every year? I bet they don't even know.
They probably
Well,
don't know.
everybody that Doug comes to the council meetings,
Right.
well, Jerry comes to all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Elton's just
Yeah, it's
recently
came-
started
it
going
came-
to.
What about the other
It's come up.
380 people?
No, they don't know.
But the other side of the coin was that the other bids were higher than,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Wait, this was
you
not
know,
what's
I
bid.
I'm
mean,
not saying it's a bad
Yeah.
deal, I'm just saying, does the public realize that they're giving their streets up for not paying that increase?
well, it was
I
brought
mean, not
up,
that it's that,
Oh, I agree,
cut
but
and
I think the whole picture needs to be laid out.
yes, I agree, the public should have an option.
Right.
I'd like to bring up something before the meeting's out, and that's a possibility of using this water revenue, because the DEQ, this PER written by Chad,
Great West.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. But the basic drift is that the redundant water supply that's supposed to go underneath the street, joining Bay Street, would cost around $80,000. If we don't have it and the line shuts down, we got big trouble, both with fire hydrants but also the water system, because all kinds of junk would get in the system, plus the city would be down with all their water supplies. That was part of the PER that was written 10 years ago. The costs are up about 3% every year. But the bid was about $80,000. That's for secondary main to go across here. Okay, I think that's a pretty good deal. They also had a possible water main running up River Street, but that was considered not to be cost effective. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we keep bringing in the school. In order to make the fire suppression system work, because the water pressure is not enough water and there's not enough pressure to do the school. It's too big. And
Who
so
said that?
this guy. It's a big book. Okay, the school could put in a sprinkler system for $200,000.
We have a sprinkler in there now.
They have sprinklers in the whole system now, in all of this old school.
It's mandated by DEQ.
Okay, well, it didn't used to have one 10 years ago, so they must have popped one in.
I believe they had one when my daughter was in school.
Yeah,
That was in '83.
they're in there.
Well, maybe that's
Well,
something.
what's the point?
Okay, this is my point. Even if that was put in, the fire suppression, the water pressure still would not be high enough. In other words, there's a real serious lack of water pressure, partly because there's only 4-inch mains. There's a lot of stuff that isn't up to code. Okay, but the DEQ doesn't enforce previously existing equipment, even though it's not up to code. But there's not anything that I read, it could be in here, that specifically says that there's areas in town that are not covered by the hydrant system. But if you look at the map of the city and where the hydrants are, it's pretty obvious that there's some big gaps. And also, if you're going to go with DEQ standards, there need to be at least 20 new hydrants. Now, because of the cost and because DEQ doesn't enforce it with all the old previously existing stuff, the plan was to put a few dollars into it each year to update, which was an attempt last year. One was installed, I don't think the other one was. But it was bought, according to the...
This seems to be the same point that you brought up at the last meeting.
It is, except I think a far more important point is that for the overall system, for the water system, there's a more important issue, and that is having a redundant water supply. In other words, a backup in case the water main underneath the street quits. Because it's old, just like you're saying, you got concrete asbestos pipes, they're really shabby. If that thing quits, the whole city's in big trouble. For $80,000 plus interest, I think it'd be a really good deal. And the whole
where do
plan,
you plan on getting $80,000? I want to know.
the plan in the book was to use the reserves from the water bills. And according to what you guys just stated, there's a bond in the Bridger Bank now that has that money in it.
The bond at Bridger Bank for the sewer right now does not have that money in it. It's got $16,000 in it.
Yeah.
And they spent, what was it, $16,000 for something?
They spent $25,000 for a stupid laptop and a couple of
Yeah,
upgrades for the meter reading
That's
system,
what
which
they
I
bought
didn't
last
like.
But there are some other things that I think should be entertained, and one of them is there are two sources of income that could work extremely well on this project. Okay, one of them is the CDBG, which would be extremely good because you only have to come up with like 25% of the amount, and it's allocated for communities where there's low income. And at the time that this was written, Fromborg didn't quite qualify, almost did, now they do. So in other words, and there's other
You
sources.
know that for a fact?
Yeah,
That
because it's written in
Fromborg
here.
qualifies?
Yeah, it was written in here. It qualified, I don't know for this date, but it probably is more so. A few years after this was written, it went up from 51 point something% and went up to 54. So chances are really good that Fromborg actually hits the proper figure right now, more than it did then.
So do you have the ability to get that confirmed?
I don't know, but we could probably call the engineer in and he could probably come up with figures.
And what would that cost us?
Nothing.
It would
Oh,
cost
yes,
some
it
money
would.
to get the ground rolled.
It would be, the engineering fees, there's,
I don't mean
I
a
don't,
new engineering fee, I mean,
And the-
if you're looking at, if
Anything
you're
like that,
looking
you
at
need to
any
do
kind
that.
of a grant, you're gonna look at feasibility studies, you're gonna look at engineering fees, you're
Yeah,
gonna
they
look
don't-
at
they don't
matching,
just
match funds.
drop
You're gonna
money in
look
your
at
lap.
well, I realize
surveys.
that, but see, that's what this has already been done for. That, all that was on this was part of the water PER, it's already been
That is
paid
a
for.
projected,
Right,
it's,
exactly.
it's not in, that is not the final result, that is a projected
Right,
estimate of everything. So whether or not there was projected, money spent for other parts of things in the sewer line and water lines and all that other stuff too, but that does not give us a solution as to how to come by those monies. We do not have
$80,000.
$80,000 sitting in a fund
I realize
somewhere.
that,
No,
but I
No way.
figure that if you can use the money from the water sewer and project, it's, because
We-
in the
you know what we
PER,
use for
if the
that
town is
money
working
from
right,
the
the
water
fees from
sewer
the
to
water,
do-
from the water
we
should
use
pay
that
for it.
money to keep this town
Right,
afloat.
I agree with that. But I'm saying is, if it isn't done, chances are the town's in really big trouble. So that's why it's worth it to get the grants and the loans. There's other places besides the CDBG to look into, and those are also listed in here. There's a lot of good possibilities. So, I think it'd be, you know, if you wanna deal with grants, I think it'd be a real good idea to check that one out, because if that system shuts down, we're in big trouble. Now, instead of tearing up the highway, they would tunnel it, okay? So, it's not like they totally destroy it. But, if it isn't done, and something tears up, and it does happen now and then,
Well,
We're
let
in
me just,
big, big
let me
trouble.
just say this. Even if we applied for a grant, it would take months and months, because it goes through committees, it goes through, necessity, it goes through a lot of things. DEQ has already given the town, as far as I know, saying that our lines, what we've got here right now, are going to be fine for the next 20 years, except for those AC lines on the east side of town, which are old, and they do crack and they do break. We're gonna have to look at, maybe down the road, if we can find the monies for it, to actually mapping those lines and replacing those asbestos cement lines with poly.
oh yeah,
sooner or
of
later.
course. But I'm saying,
But we're looking-
more important than that is getting the water main underneath the highway first, because if that shuts down, the whole city's gonna be
Well,
down for a long
apparently
time.
DEQ does not think that that's a necessity at
Well,
this point.
according to the engineer, it is a top
You,
priority.
you keep holding up this book. I don't know that that's a Bible. And I don't know when the printing was.